Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for another edition of WOWSA Live with a very special guest and our host, Ned Denison. Ned?
Hello, everyone. I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. My guest today is Dr. Marcy MacDonald. Marcy, can you please help everybody understand a little bit about your professional career, and then we'll move on to marathon swimming in a second.
Well, I'm a podiatrist, which means foot specialist. I actually am on the conservative means of the profession. I don't do any crazy surgeries, and I think it's fallen quite nicely for my swimming career because I worry about most of my patients a lot. So this way, I know if I had done like big surgeries, I probably would be very worried while I was away from Connecticut. So, but I see lots of feet, love my diabetics, love keeping their feet on. And they love my swimming. So it's great.
So you're not doing surgeries to allow women to put their feet into pointy shoes?
No, I don't do that.
Give us a high-level overview of your marathon swimming career. We'll dive deeply into the English Channel as well in a few minutes, but give us an overview, please.
I think I just was almost made to do open water. I was fortunate to have a coach when I was growing up here in Manchester, Connecticut, who came from California. And he actually introduced a lot of open water for his swimmers. And he would pick and choose some of his kids that were good workout swimmers. And we started doing some, the 4-mile cable swim down in Virginia. And it just seemed like, I mean, I know it was hard work, but I kind of excelled in that. And one thing led into the other while I was going to college, and I was always brought back to the water. So it was kind of the beginning of the triathlons, and I did a few triathlons. I never did an Ironman total. I think you would have called it a half Iron. Well, it was a Sri equalizer. And so everything was like about 2 hours. It was a 5-mile swim, 60-mile bike, and a 50-mile run, and hurt my knee. Didn't really care if I ever ran again. So I would always look for open water and just gradually got into it. And at that point, I was down in school in Manhattan, and I met, I was living at the 92nd Street Y, was always at the pool, but I was always looking for a pool. And, but I met Marsha Cleveland, and we did some swims back up here in Connecticut. And it just seemed like one thing led into another. It was like, okay, well, what's next? Candlewood Lake, that 10 miles, what's next? And Marsha and I were both thinking about the channel. So we kind of, I found a great group of people down there, and swimming just kind of fit right into my little niche here. So.
And tell us about approaching your first English Channel solo. What kind of mindset you were in? How long of training you did? What you did differently?
Well, that was way back before the internet. It was 1994, and I remember there was not a lot of information out there. I remember reading books. Oh my goodness, I read a book about it. Marsha and I, she was, if you know Marsha, she truly is the information gatherer. I mean, she would share a lot with me. But I also was able to find Marty Mcmann here in Connecticut. He was our first Connecticut swimmer who swam back in 1985 or 86. And so I met with him for lunch, and he filled me in with a lot. But it was a lot different. It was a lot of phone calls, and we actually had to, telegraphs, and it was in letter writing to people. And and I also, well, with training, it was a little bit different. I mean, I knew I was getting into a crazy swim. So I truly worked hard. Luckily, as I said before, my coach taught us how to swim. So I just pretty much did a lot of that. But it was a lot of swimming on the weekends and a lot of swimming in the morning. Every morning I would swim in a pool, and I was shooting for like 8 to 10,000 a day. So I almost say that I was not necessarily overtrained, but I definitely was ready for it. I knew I was going to be in, it wasn't going to be fast, but I was planning for like a 12-hour swim. So
Was it your first time in England?
Oh yeah.
And when you came down to the Europe's #1 favorite vacation spot in Dover with the Euro Disney and the aquatic park and the slides and the palm
Yes.
trees, you got to tell us about your first impressions.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the first day that my mother and I landed, because it was really a family affair then, my mother came with me and the trains were on strike. So everybody had to take a bus down to Dover, and we were just waiting for a bus. And luckily, Bill Hamblin, Bill and Audrey, Bill picked us up at the ferry depot and brought us home. And that's when I met my second channel swimmer, Nora, from Mexico. And so here we are, two swimmers, and her English is fantastic now, but let's say we had a little communication problem. She brought me down to Dover Harbor, and it was like a 4.6, 4.7 outside the gates. And I truly said, what the hell did I get myself into? I really, it was crazy. I mean,
just because the ferries couldn't make it didn't mean you couldn't.
Yeah. Oh my God. So, so we swam a little bit, and then of course the next day it calmed down a little bit and things were much better. And yes, we went back every morning, but Nora didn't know the way over through Dover, the little subway that goes underneath the highway. I mean, I can't believe we actually made it across, what is that, the M20? Whatever. With my mother, I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, that's my memory from the first day.
And the swim.
The swim was really pretty funny because my pilot was Mike Orm, and that was my first time meeting him. And let's say back then, Mike expected a lot out of his swimmers. And I told him how fast I was, he asked me how fast I swam a mile. And he said, oh, then you'll be out there for about 14 hours. And I said, I'm not going to be out there for 14 hours. I did prove him wrong. I did 10 hours and 33 minutes. And I would take that day any day now, because I've been out there in maybe 2 days of very beautiful days. And I certainly have been out there in other days that were not, force 5, force 4, and that only comes every so often, during the day, but it's definitely out there going, what I thought it's supposed to be nice out here, but it really, it's a place that, I don't know. It's every swim I've done is different. And I was very happy that was successful, and I had beautiful weather. I met some great people, because I think that's why I kept going back, or have.
So somehow you got it into your head to do a two-way. Tell us about the number of gyrations before that was in the bag.
I really didn't even know people did two ways until the day after my first solo. And that's when I met Frida Streeter on on the beach. And Frida, before I swam, didn't think I was going to make it, because when we'd go down and train, I would only train for the maximum, maybe 2.5 hours. And, of course, many of the English swimmers would go down there on the weekends and swim 6 hours, and I wasn't going to do that. I'm tapering for my swim. And so she really didn't think I was going to make it. But when I did make it, she said, that's not too bad. When are you going to come back and do a double? So she's the one who planted the seed. It took me, I didn't think about it until 1997. That was my first try. I got hurt on that one. 99, we had an accident in the water, so I had to come back. But 2000, I got over in a fantastic 942. Yeah, 942. Pretty good. 942, headed back, and I should have finished it that day, but my head got all screwed up and I was cold, so I got out of the water with maybe about 7 hours left to swim. So it was successful in 2001, and everything went great. Everything was just like in sync for 2001.
And you decided you'd done as much as you could ever hope to accomplish English Channel and called it a day, right?
That's right. I should have turned around. That was the day to do it. But I never even thought about it. I'm just like, I'm done. Good, it's done. So, but that was it definitely. I will never use the word never again, because I did use it, and that has come back to bite me. People have said, you said you're never going to do that again. And of course I lied and did it 12 more times. So.
And I always heard rumors over the years you were going for the three-way.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's always a hope to do, but it's a monster of a swim. And I just have never gotten the conditions that I truly would like to for that third lap, for the third length. So,
did you ever make the turn?
I did make the turn in 2004. I was only swimming with one arm, and I knew I was not going to get there. And finally Mike came out and said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm swimming because you won't let me out. And he said, oh, get out of the water. So I did.
Well, Marcy, there are very few swimmers who have ever done an English Channel. There's an incredibly small number who have done a two-way. There's a very, very small number of people who ever dreamed of a three-way, and there's a handful who ever made the turn. So don't worry about that. Tell us about other big swims that you loved.
One of my favorite swims is around Jersey. I love Jersey, UK, not New Jersey. But I just think it's just one of the coolest places around. I look forward to going back there. And the Hawaiian swim, the Molokai Channel was crazy. I mean, I think that's one of the hardest swims around. I'm not saying that the channel's not hard, but Molokai is just so big. The water is big water. The Pacific Ocean is just, you are out there. And I've never seen those kind of swells before. I mean, and swam in them. It was when Liz Fry and I did it, oh gosh, how many years ago? 4 years ago? That's another one that I've said I never have to do again. So
tell our viewers a little bit about the Jersey swim. I presume you got a little bit of a push from the current along the way?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh. It's amazing. What is it, 42 miles around? Something like that?
Something like that.
less than 10 hours. I mean, holy cow, you are flying. And I remember when we finished and Charlie says, oh, if I had brought her out further, we would have even been faster. You know, it's all about timing that turn pretty much up in the upper right-hand corner, I guess. But so many beautiful things to see, and the lighthouses and the cliffs. It just really is. There's lots of. It's just like Manhattan. There's lots to look at. So especially if you breathe on your left-hand side. I mean,
I never saw the island, Marcy. I breathe to the right.
You should learn to find a lateral breathe.
You mentioned Charlie Gravitt, who's also an honor pilot in the Hall of Fame. Charlie once told me that they clocked a swimmer once doing 9 knots.
Yeah.
In a channel of rock. So what happens is the tide goes around the island, and the height of the tide. You may have had a similar experience. I remember at one point thinking to myself, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And I'd been swimming downhill for about 3 minutes. The tide it's about a 40-foot tide that goes around the island.
Yeah.
So it gives you a push.
Yeah, it is an amazing, and you know, I find, and I tell swimmers that have tried the channel, and I've always been the kind of person that, you know, you kind of start baby steps and then you get up to the big leap. And if you do have trouble with, if you have aspirations of the channel, that I think that's a great place, because you will accomplish it if you stay in the water, and it's cold there, and it's a great place to get a successful swim in. Not everybody makes it around. I mean, you
probably have had the same experience I have, that people come to me with literally no marathon experience and they want their first swim to be the English Channel. Always a single, mind you, with one exception. Always a single, except Lisa Cummings, who did accomplish the double on her first outing.
Yes.
You're in Connecticut. You know, what are you telling these folks? What are the baby steps you're recommending for them?
Well, we have a fantastic swim here, is swim across the Sound. That's a 16-mile swim, but our tides are not, it's also, we have an interval. We'd like you to be done by 9 hours. So it can be quite a challenge to make the time. But that's a good swim. Manhattan is a good swim to do for, it's just a fun swim to do. All you gotta do is, you know, just keep the arms moving. You're probably gonna make it around. And we swim a lot out in our, I call it our Connecticut open water camp. You know, we're fortunate to have the Long Island Sound, and we have some really safe beaches to swim at, and you know, our state parks make sure that the boats don't come in, so you're pretty safe. We have a great group of people if you want to swim, but my biggest advice is just get in the water and stay in the water, and be consistent with your training. It's kind of like, you know, when you're a kid, you go to practice 5 days a week. So why aren't we swimming 5 days a week? I mean, I know work does get in the way, and I got a lot of work to do here, but I'm a morning person, so I'm up at 4:15 and get the animals fed, and then I'm out the door. Luckily, I've now found a little bit of water with this crisis, and I can swim a little bit. But you know, I'm feeling like a swimmer, a little bit like a swimmer again.
Go back to last year, middle of the summer. Describe this open water group you have in Connecticut. Give us the names we've heard of. I assume Liz Fry is on her best behavior. Tell us who's there, what the dynamics are. Are you the mother hen and the little chicks are behind you? What happens?
Our name is the cows. Connecticut open water swimmers, or swimming, whatever you want to call it. And I know there's a bunch of cows out there too. There's Colorado, they have their open water swims. But we have a little site on Facebook, and if anybody comes into our area, they're welcome to come down to one of our state beaches. We meet on the weekends usually. It could be both days, Saturday and Sunday. And we have a great group of people. We have very slow people. So sometimes we always keep an eye on them. We always advise them to get our, the little swimming buoy. We have our rules that you are to tell somebody that you are getting out of the water if you're not going to finish the loop. So we're not like looking for you and thinking that you got dragged out to sea. We have a variety of, but most of us are around the same speed. If you are really fast, we tell them, you got to do 3 times instead of, 2.
How many on a weekend are you getting?
We can usually range between, like right now it's kind of cold, so we'll have 4 people. But once it starts getting warmer, we may have a good 8 people show up. It's just not that many, but everybody's on a different schedule. So we'd like more, but it's also 8 o'clock in the morning, so it's early.
And how many of the 8 are typically English Channel soloists?
Well, we have Jim Bayless, me, Liz, and you never know, we might get Diane and Carol Ann who will come back this year. We have like 10 people, and Marty Mcmann. So I would say if everybody showed up that were channel swimmers, we'd have 10, which isn't too bad for our.
So not a bad place to go if you're looking for some people who have done it. Bit of advice. And what's the food and drink situation like afterwards? Is there hot coffee, tea, cakes, donuts?
There might even be a beer there. So. Depending on what time we finish. Yeah, I know the Brits like their sugar, and we're not as much into sugar. We usually have. I bring the warm stuff. Might make some chicken soup, or some hot tea, or cocoa. But I have to say, a lot of times we just get dressed and we split. Okay, it's time to go to home and go do our yard work. And I think in Dover, people have to travel so far. I mean, sometimes they're traveling like 2 hours. We're talking a half an hour, 45 minutes, to get to one of the beaches. And, we go back to our own schedules too. So
I had the pleasure last year of joining you in Fort Lauderdale for your induction into the International Swimming Hall of Fame. You had already been an honoree in the Marathon Hall of Fame. Describe to me what it felt like. I certainly remember you had a big smile on your face, which didn't go away for the entire time you were there. But what did it mean to you, Marcy?
Well, I can retire if I want. No. You know what? It's just so special to be recognized by your peers. And I also know that I've always, and I was talking to one of my patients, and we were just, it's like anniversary time right now. And I'm just so blessed to have the team that has helped me get to where I am, because it's not just the swimmer, it's about everybody else. And they down in the Fort Lauderdale, they're so welcoming. I mean, and so are you, Ned. And I was so blessed to have you there, and many of my friends. And what's it mean to be in the Hall of Fame? I still can't believe it. I can't wait for the reopening. And I can't wait to celebrate with other swimmers too, no matter what. I mean, I really thought the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame, I'm blessed to be there too. And it's just an honor to be, recognized by someone,
And finally,
Especially for,
what's the
sorry.
future? What's the future for you as far as some more swimming?
Well, I was going to go up to Alaska and have some fun this year, but Corona,
That was Penick Island?
COVID-19 got in the way. So this year, I'm going to try to do Swim Across the Sound. It's going to be a really ugly swim. I really think it's going to be very painful. And, there could be a couple other channel swims in there.
Talk about holding your cards close to your chest, Marcy. It's not like I'm going to tell anybody. Your secret's safe.
I'd like to come up. I do have this little thing in my head, but I can't say it to anybody because
Steve can't keep a secret. Don't mind me.
I do want to. I don't know about the Ocean Sevens. My practice is just so different that I really have a hard time taking time off for my patients, and I know these places, so I like to go to England. It's almost like a commute, okay, I'm gonna book my swim, and boom, last year I can't believe we got everything done in like 11 days. But everything fell into place. We had good weather and everything. And I now, when I go to England, if it's bad weather, I just come home. I don't hang out anymore. Like, okay, I just came for a visit and just, go home because I just
you don't sunbathe on the black coral sand beach there. The beautiful fine beach sand. That's
Ned, I could be a tour guide in Dover. We have found so many cool places in Dover. I don't know how many times I've gone up to the castle and the Grand Shaft, and it's just really cool there. Have you ever been to the Roman Painted House?
No, I've been to the RAF Museum.
Oh, I haven't been there. I'll have to go.
There you go. Well, Marcy, we wish you all the best in your secret endeavors. We'll find out about them at some point. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ned.